wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of good and bad watchers, um, especially during these times where the species is struggling to achieve type 1 civilization status. That means that there's going to be a lot of upheavals, if you haven't noticed, and certain kind of watchers feed off of the chaos, the suffering, the confusion, the anxiety, the fight or flight, basically. So, yeah, good and bad is only relative to us, right? To what is in our best interest. So, by good, I mean those watchers who have feed off of creativity and novelty, basically. Uh, those I would qualify as the good watchers. Um, from what they tell me, from bits and pieces I've been able to gather, it seems like the original watchers, the ones that originated in that universe trillions of years ago, those tend to be the ones of the creative types. They tend to be friends of humanity and friends of basically creativity and freedom and all that. So you could call them the elder ones, because there's always that division, right? In different mythologies, like you have the Titans on the one hand, and then you have the Olympic gods on the other, and then, or the Aesir and the Vanir on the one hand, and the other, the Devas and Asuras. This is worldwide. So I'm not saying anything strange. I'm just placing it within a larger context, right? So there's that. Those are those watchers, and the ones that tend to be the ones that feed off of Garmonbozia or Lush or human suffering. Those tend to be the newer types, because in these new universes, they found all kinds of places and opportunities to indulge in such things, right? Because creativity requires some discipline and requires an application of effort, right? Whereas Lush and Garmonbozia is abundant. It's so easy to acquire, right? So, so yeah, those tend to be the ones that the so-called elites, right, go to obtain certain privileges. I mean, the real ones. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the real ones, the ones that have the real power, the ones that you don't see. Those are the ones that are very intimately involved with these types of watchers, right? And I think I've been urged in part to make these distinctions, not from a moralist perspective, but from the idea that many of us are being assailed. I know this by personal experience. They're being assailed by thoughts of deletion, self-deletion, deletion of others, basically an orgy of fight or flight, right? I'm telling you right now that this doesn't serve your purpose at all. It serves the purpose of those watchers that feed off of these things, right? So be mindful of that. I think that's one of the reasons why they've urged me to come out, so to speak, out of the watcher closet and to speak about these things, because many of us will be assailed by these thoughts. And I can tell you, these thoughts aren't your own. They're being fed into you. They're in the akash, they're in the field, so to speak, and you pick them up. So I would urge you to do as much as you can in order to inoculate, to the extent that you can, yourself from the general environment that we're going through right now. There's different ways of going through that, right? There's different ways of exploring that. And in the next section, I may get deeper into different ways of shielding you from those types of thoughts that don't serve you, right? Because if you delete yourself or you delete others and then they delete you, I mean, yeah, who did that serve really, right? Um, what you have to ask yourself every time is, cui bono, right? Who does it serve, right? Who benefits? So just keep that in mind. But yeah, the older watchers and the younger watchers, so to speak, the good watchers and the bad watchers. Now again, this isn't black and white, right? Because these are the categories that we have as humans, right? To try to make sense of things. But I would say that there's always those that combine the two in some kind of way. There's not watchers are entirely white and there's not watchers are entirely black or anything like that. Those are your extremes. If you follow the statistical curve, you're always going to have those extremes, right? But the majority of the watchers are going to fall in somewhere in that statistical curve. So it's a bit more nuanced than saying these are good watchers, these are bad watchers. Again, good or bad is only a reference to ourselves. And again, I'm bringing this up because we're in a very sensitive time, if you haven't noticed, where things are up in the air, anything's possible. So I'm supposing that they feel this is a good time for me to come out of the watcher's closet, so to speak, and to begin to talk about these things. And of course, I've spent lifetimes trying to make sense of the snippets that I get from them, because it's like being a child and hearing adults talk about quantum physics or something like that. I mean, it gives you an idea of the difficulty that I've had in enunciating and putting in plain English these things when we're talking about things that are so obscured either by special interests or history itself that it's really difficult to find a coherent way of addressing this without seeming insane, right? So, and because of the nature of my own profession, well, obviously, that's something that I've kept under wraps until I'm in my mid-50s now. So, only some years before I consider retirement at this point. So, I'm in a place where I feel like it's necessary. I feel compelled to come out and speak about these things. And again, I may not, I don't know how long, right? I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm just doing it, right? And this is the pivot that I've been asked to take at this point in this critical year, and that's what I'm doing. So, good watchers, the older watchers, friends of mankind, value creativity, value, and part of the suggestion that I would make in order to inoculate yourself from the influence of bad watchers is to engage in acts of creativity. That one would be recommended. Things that you're passionate about, hobbies, um, anything that you can sink hours into and forget about the world. I would say minimize your exposure to social media and other influences like that, because there's certain websites and social media where um, these vibes can get to you and reach you subconsciously, subliminally. So you want to be able to be very careful about what you allow in to your domain, right? Don't be the sponge, right? Don't be indiscriminate as to what you bring in. So I may get into more details later on as to the things that you can do in order to inoculate yourself against what's going on right now. But know that there are good watchers out there, and that there are bad watchers out there. There are watchers that want your pain and suffering, and there are those that want you to be free and happy and involved. So let's just keep it there with that premise. And till next time.